procrastination is not just about being lazy. It's not about being unmotivated. It's not even about not wanting something bad enough. Procrastination is a trap we all fall into because it feels safer than action. It gives us the illusion that we still have time, that we'll get to it tomorrow, that somehow tomorrow will be a different person with more energy, more discipline, more courage. But the truth is, tomorrow doesn't bring a new version of you. Tomorrow brings the exact same person you are today. And if you don't break the cycle right now, you'll keep repeating the same story again and again until years go by and you're still stuck in the same place. The only way to stop procrastinating is not to wait for motivation, not to wait for the right timing, not to wait for the perfect plan. The only way to stop procrastinating is to act before you're ready. Here's the reality most people don't want to face. You will never feel fully ready. You will never feel perfectly confident. You will never feel like the stars are aligned, the circumstances are perfect, and the fear is gone. That moment doesn't come. Readiness is a lie procrastination whispers to you, so you keep waiting. And every time you wait, you build the habit of hesitation. You train your brain to sit in delay instead of move into action. That's why the first and most important step is to do it while you still feel uncomfortable. Do it scared. Do it unprepared. Do it unsure. Do it anyway. Think about the times in your life when you actually made progress. It wasn't when everything was perfectly set up. It was when you just jumped. It was when you said yes without knowing all the answers. It was when you put yourself on the line and forced yourself to figure it out. Growth doesn't come from the comfort of preparation. Growth comes from the discomfort of execution. Procrastination convinces you that if you just think about it a little more, if you plan a little longer, if you wait until next week, you'll be in a better position. But the truth is, overthinking is just fear disguised as logic. The longer you wait, the heavier the task becomes in your mind. The longer you delay, the more intimidating it grows. And suddenly, something that could have been done in 20 minutes feels like a mountain you'll never climb. So what do? You shrink the mountain. You stop looking at the entire staircase and you just focus on the first step. That's it. Not the whole project, not the whole future, not the whole list. Just the next single move. Because here's the thing, motion creates motivation. You don't get motivated and then take action. You take action and then feel motivated. The energy comes after you start, not before. Waiting for motivation before you begin is like waiting to get warm before you go to the gym. It doesn't work that way. You move first, the warmth follows. You act first, the clarity follows. You commit first, the confidence follows. But the problem is, procrastination feels good in the moment. That's why it's so seductive. Scrolling your phone feels easier. Watching one more episode feels safer. Telling yourself you'll do it later gives you instant relief. But the price of that relief is long-term regret. And regret will always weigh more than discomfort. The discomfort of starting is temporary, but the regret of not starting lasts a lifetime. At some point, you have to decide which pain you're willing to carry, the pain of discipline right now, or the pain of regret forever. Every person who has ever achieved something you admire had to face the exact same battle. They weren't special. They weren't immune to procrastination. They weren't fearless robots. They just learned to stop negotiating with themselves. They understood that the voice in your head will always give you an excuse to delay. You're tired. You'll be more focused tomorrow. It's not the right time. That voice never shuts up. If you wait until it goes silent, you'll wait forever. You don't fight procrastination by silencing the voice. You fight it by moving anyway. Let me tell you this, the hardest part is not the work itself. The hardest part is starting. Once you start, momentum kicks in. Think about how many times you didn't want to go to the gym, but once you were there, it wasn't so bad. How many times you didn't want to sit down and write, but once you started typing, the words came. How many times you didn't want to clean, but once you picked up the first item, you got into the flow. Action breeds more action. Starting creates the momentum that keeps you going. But you have to be honest with yourself. You don't need another planner. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need to research the best way to do it. You know what to do. Deep down, you know the next step you're avoiding. The real battle isn't about information. It's about courage. It's about choosing to move even when the excuses feel louder than the reasons. And once you do, you start rewiring your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who delays and start seeing yourself as someone who delivers. You stop saying, I'll do it later, and start saying, I do it now. That shift changes everything. So today, you've got two choices. You can keep waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, the perfect circumstances, or you can decide that the perfect moment is the one you're in right now. You can decide that imperfect action beats perfect delay every single time. You can decide that your future self deserves better than the cycle of putting things off. The only way to stop procrastinating is to prove to yourself that you don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. And when you begin, something amazing happens. You realize it wasn't as hard as you made it in your head. You realize you're more capable than you gave yourself credit for. You realize that progress is addictive and every little win fuels the next one. That's how you build momentum. That's how you break the cycle. That's how you take your power back from procrastination. It's not about waiting for a miracle. It's not about waiting for confidence. It's about action here and now in this very moment, because this moment is the only one you control. And if you waste it, you waste the only real opportunity you'll ever have. So stop telling yourself later. Stop negotiating with your excuses. Stop believing the lie that you'll be a different person tomorrow. You won't. The only way to stop procrastinating is to move before you're ready, to act before you feel like it, to step into the unknown and trust yourself to figure it out as you go. That is the way forward. That is the path to freedom. And that is how you take back control of your life. Procrastination always shows up wearing a disguise. It never introduces itself honestly. It doesn't walk in and say, hey, I'm here to rob you of your potential. Instead, it whispers things that sound reasonable, even comforting. You're tired. Rest a little. You've had a long day. You deserve a break. But it won't make a difference if you start tomorrow instead. And because those words sound kind, we let them in. But behind that mask is the same thief stealing your progress day after day. Procrastination is not an innocent habit. It's a decision repeated over time that shapes the life you live. And that's the part most of us don't want to face. Every time we say, I'll do it later, we're not just delaying the task. We're delaying who we could become. Every single action you avoid is a vote for the weaker version of yourself. Every time you push something off, you cast a ballot for the side of you that stays stuck, small, and safe. And eventually, the votes add up, and you wonder why you're not moving forward. It's because you've been slowly building the habit of hesitation. The truth is, procrastination is not about the task. It's about your identity. It's about who you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as someone who always waits, always hesitates, always leaves things until tomorrow, that belief will bleed into everything you do. You won't just procrastinate on your work. You'll procrastinate on your dreams, on your relationships, on your health, on your growth. You'll find yourself living in a constant state of almost. Almost started, almost finished, almost achieved. And almost is the most painful place to live, because it gives you just enough hope to think you're on the edge of something, but never enough action to actually get there. So how do you escape? You shift your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a procrastinator and start proving to yourself through small, consistent action that you are someone who does things now. You don't need to conquer the entire mountain today. You don't need to change your life in one massive leap. All you need is one small action that interrupts the pattern. Because procrastination is a pattern, a habit loop that feeds itself. The moment you break the loop, even in the tiniest way, you weaken its power. Think about it this way. If you tell yourself you'll just work on something for 5 minutes, your brain can't fight you as hard. It feels so small, so manageable that it lowers the resistance. And the moment you start, momentum kicks in. Those 5 minutes turn into 15, then 30, then an hour. Suddenly, you're moving, and it's easier to keep going than to stop. That's the trick. You don't wait for willpower. You trick your brain by lowering the entry point. The danger with procrastination is it convinces you that nothing is urgent. And if nothing is urgent, you'll never act with intensity. But life is urgent. Your time is running whether you act or not. The clock is ticking whether you're moving or sitting still. And every day you put things off is a day you don't get back. Imagine looking back years from now and realizing that the opportunities you missed weren't taken from you. They were handed away by your own delay. That's a brutal truth, But sometimes the brutal truth is what wakes us up. You don't beat procrastination by becoming perfect. You beat it by becoming consistent. Consistency always wins over intensity. Anyone can have one burst of effort, one motivated day. But it's what you do daily, in small disciplined moves, that builds a future. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do something. Something today. Something now. That's how you build momentum, and momentum is the greatest enemy of procrastination. And here's what's powerful. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you rebuild trust in who you are. Because procrastination is more than wasted time. It's broken trust. Every time you say, I'll do it later, and don't, a part of you stops believing in your own word. And when you don't believe in yourself, your confidence drains. The cycle deepens. But when you act, even in the smallest way, you repair that trust. You prove to yourself that you can be counted on, that your words mean something, that your promises matter, and nothing builds confidence faster than following through. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel that pull to put something off, don't negotiate. Don't argue with yourself. Don't wait until it feels right. Just start. Even if it's tiny, even if it's sloppy, even if it's only for a few minutes, start. Because the habit you build is not about the task itself. It's about becoming the type of person who does what needs to be done. And that type of person doesn't live in delay. That type of person creates. That type of person moves. That type of person grows. If you really want to stop procrastinating, you have to understand this action is not optional. It's the price of progress. It's the doorway to the future you want. And every time you delay, the door gets heavier, harder to push open. But every time you move, the door gets lighter, easier to swing wide. And eventually, momentum makes it effortless. You'll look back one day and realize the hardest thing you ever did was simply start, but that start changed everything. We'll always promise you comfort, but comfort is the enemy of growth. It tempts you with the easy choice, the softer option, the path of least resistance. And it feels good for a moment, but that moment passes, and what's left behind is frustration, guilt, and disappointment in yourself. The truth is, procrastination doesn't just steal your time, it steals your peace. It leaves you restless because deep down you know you're capable of more. You know you're avoiding the work, the dream, the responsibility, the action that could change your life. And that gap between what you know you should do and what you're actually doing, that gap is what creates stress, shame, and self-doubt. That's why procrastination feels so heavy, because it's not just about unfinished tasks. It's about the person you know you could be, but aren't allowing yourself to become. And if you want to stop living in that tension, you can't wait for it to magically disappear. You have to confront it head on. You have to stop seeing procrastination as some unsolvable mystery and start seeing it as a choice. Because that's all it is, a choice, repeated enough times that it feels automatic. And the good news is, if you can choose to delay, you can also choose to act. Every moment you hesitate is also a moment you can decide to move. That decision is always in your hands. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Stop focusing on how big the outcome feels and focus only on the next move. When you stare at the whole project, the whole journey, the whole challenge, of course it feels overwhelming. That's why procrastination wins. It feeds on overwhelm. But if you break it down to just the next single step, suddenly it's not so intimidating. Write the first sentence. Send the one email. Make the 5-minute call. Clean the one corner of the room. Just do the smallest, most obvious action. That's how you weaken procrastination, not by tackling everything at once, but by building a rhythm of starting again and again. And here's the powerful thing: starting small doesn't mean staying small. The energy you get from beginning is what grows into bigger action. That's why you can't wait for clarity before you start. Clarity comes from starting. You can't wait for energy before you start. Energy comes from starting. You can't wait for courage before you start. Courage comes from starting. Everything you're waiting for is on the other side of beginning, not before it. But let's be honest, the hardest part of breaking procrastination isn't the task. It's the story you've told yourself about who you are. Maybe you've carried the label of being a procrastinator for years. Maybe you've said it so often it feels like your identity. But that's not who you are. That's just a habit you've practiced. And habits can be unlearned the same way they were learned, through repetition. Every time you act instead of delay, you chip away at that old identity and build a new one. You stop telling yourself, I always put things off, and you start saying, I do things now. And when you repeat that enough, it stops being a statement and starts being the truth. Here's the reality: you can't ignore your future is being decided by your present choices. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Every delay adds up, just like every action adds up. And one day, you'll either stand proud of the momentum you built or regret the time you let slip through your fingers. There is no neutral ground. You're either moving forward or falling behind. That's why stopping procrastination matters. It's not just about finishing tasks, it's about reclaiming your life. So ask yourself right now, what's the thing you're avoiding? Not tomorrow, not tonight, this very moment. What's the thing you've been pushing to the side? Because that's your doorway. That's your opportunity. Don't look for the perfect plan. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the right time. Just begin. Even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's small, begin. Because once you do, you'll realize the power was never in waiting. It was always in acting. The only way to stop procrastinating is to stop giving power to later and take power back to now. Not next week. Not tomorrow morning. Now, every moment you choose now, you take a step out of hesitation and into growth. Every moment you choose now, you rewrite your story. And if you keep choosing now, again and again, you'll build a life of momentum, progress, and confidence. Procrastination loses its grip not because it disappears, but because you decide not to listen anymore. You move anyway, you act anyway, you live anyway. And that's how you win.